All right, we are live. Welcome to our talk in honor of Women's History Month. I'm so excited that you joined us today, and I'm super excited to introduce our guest. Our topic today is healthy habits women can adopt to achieve their desires. And so let me introduce, I'm Michelle Beauchamp, and I want to introduce my guests that are going to join us. So we're having a panel discussion today. So you are in for a treat because you're going to get lots of wisdom and lots of nuggets. We have Sonia Funk, who is joining us from Canada, so we're international here. Her company is called The Whole Avocado. She's a nutritional therapist and she's a corporate wellness strategist and speaker. So, love that. And then also joining us is Jackie Olivier. Jackie is the founder of Moxie Essential Care. And Jackie started her business at 50 years old, and we think that was very bold and courageous, and we're going to learn more about that. So, welcome, Jackie. We have Kathy Dawson, who is a search and staffing CEO nationwide. So, we're super excited about that. And Kathy, can you believe it? She's been in this business for 39 years. So, she's got some nuggets and some experience, and she must have started when she was 8.
That's
So
right.
welcome, Kathy. And then we have Dr. Cynthia Powell Hicks, who is a retired CEO in the nonprofit industry. And now she is a relationship coach and a mental health expert. And so we have a well-rounded team here. Super excited to get us started. Here's a little background about how this got started. I was thinking, what can I do to celebrate in honor of Women's History Month? And what comes to mind is we do a lot as women. I mean, we are always doing and being busy doing something most of the time for other people. So I thought, why don't we have a conversation about how we can make sure we take care of ourselves? And here's what I want to kind of set the stage for you. I love the Proverbs 31 woman from the Bible. She's productive, and I think that as a collective, she represents all of us. So I'm going to share a few words with you about what is in this verse. She gets up while it's still dark. Okay, can you relate to that? She's early. She gets up while it's still dark, provides for her family, considers a field and buys it, plants a vineyard. So you see the action going on here. There's a lot of action she's doing. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She's clothed with strength and dignity. She speaks wisdom. And I love that Proverbs 31 woman. And here's the thing. If we're going to be productive and achieve the desires for our lives, then it's important for us to take care of ourselves. I know in my work with companies and individuals, I often talk about the importance of advocacy for others and ourselves. And this particular conversation today is going to be about the importance to advocate for ourselves so that we can achieve our life's desires. And again, guests, I want to welcome you. And you know what? Go ahead and plug in if you're on, so we can see who's joining us today and see some of the comments that are coming in. So we want to encourage you to do that. We'd love to see who's joining us today. We know we had lots of people sign up, which means this is an important topic for women. So Sonia, I am going to start with you. And what I have here on the banner is this: sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, we know we've said it, we know we've heard it. And so, one of the things that you say is that you hear people say this, you hear women say this. And so, my question for you, Sonia, is when a woman comes to you and she's feeling sick and tired of being sick and tired, what is it you say? What do you do? What's your reaction? What's your response to that?
Well, having done this for many, many years, typically that person that comes and says that to me grew up as a people pleaser and a yes person. It is
Mm,
really unlikely that someone ends up in my office where work around boundaries and self care actually matters more than the food that they're eating. So that's kind of where a lot of that ends up coming in. And I also want to say our proverb women here, you notice that she planted a
mhm.
vineyard and not wheat. Like, did we notice that? This is why women bond over wine. But I do find there is this energy deficit in women collectively, where we are the carers and the doers and have a million things that we do. And there's been this shift in the last 50 years where we were doing all of that. And then we also started working full-time jobs. And so the people that come to me who are sick and tired of being sick and tired usually have boundary issues. Those boundaries issues usually developed in childhood, which I'm sure some of our guests could speak to. And I just find that's what's most important in my work is that, yes, I'm a nutritional therapist and a wellness strategist, but if you aren't going in and looking at the boundaries and understanding that you cannot effectively and long-term love someone more than you love yourself, that is a reality that has to set in. And I always tell women, we're going to go on this journey. And I said, the first time someone tells you for the first time in your life that you're selfish, I want you to call me and we're going to crack a bottle of bubbly on that. Because that means that you are getting somewhere.
Awesome. So boundaries, and it's okay to be selfish. All right. And what about from a nutrition point of view?
Yeah, and it isn't really selfish, but someone's going to call it that, right? Yeah. Sorry,
right.
Something there? Yeah.
What about from the nutrition point of view?
So from the nutrition point of view, typically these women who are sick and tired of being sick and tired are also sick and tired of carrying around extra weight. That tends to come up a lot. And when I walk through their journey and through their story, what I actually show them in their own story, which if I had $1 million for every time someone said, this is the first time I've ever made sense to myself before, I might not even be here. I'll be on the island where there is no internet. But what happens usually is I show them where the weight came from, psychologically, emotionally, and biologically. It usually sits in their adrenals, their stress response in their nervous system that is tired and can't keep up anymore, and a liver that is fatigued. And the strategy never has anything to do with portion control, counting calories, because the quality matters so much more than the quantity, always. And if you don't have boundaries and you can't calm your stress response and your difficult life that is constantly releasing cortisol into your body, which makes you keep the weight, you will not lose the reason that you have the weight. So strategically, we look at the reasons why you're holding it, and the quantity and the calorie counting, all that stuff just goes out the window, because that is a Band-Aid solution. But if you look at why you're sick and tired and why your body took on the extra weight because it couldn't process it, it has very little to do with calories. And that's something that I always drive home to women.
That's interesting. So Sonia, what are the top 2 or 3 reasons that you see people are carrying this extra weight? Because most women, we all feel like we're carrying too much.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with not understanding how our biology responds to the stress in our lives. And that stress itself can be the reason why the body doesn't have the capacity to process the things that it needs to do to lose the weight. And we also tend to, and I'm not a psychologist, but I know that there is one here, but we also tend to hold on to things that we can't process. And it's like physiologically, our body has to tuck away the things that we can't process in our physiology. And I always, when women start to feel less stress and manage it better, and when they look in the mirror and start asking what has happened to me instead of what is wrong with me, the stress response comes down, and the body, the liver, all the organs, all the things I could talk about for hours, start to let go, start to have the capacity to process things when the boundaries come into play. When we start saying yes to ourselves, then ourselves can do what they're supposed to be able to do, because we keep the energy to process and metabolize instead of metabolizing for somebody else. I hope that makes sense.
So instead of saying what's wrong with me, saying what has happened to me, that's a small thing that I think that's a big statement change. That's a big pivot, a big pivot. Okay. All right. Thank you, Sonia. Okay. And so we have this panel discussion for our audience, and we've had several people say that they're who they're calling in from. Some people from Team Dawson, and someone from Lake Oswego, Oregon, where I lived in Lake Oswego, Oregon, and Kathy and Tina. So we're so excited. We have people that are here and listening and joining in. And so we might have a chance to come back to that. So now I'm going to come to Jackie. So Jackie, Moxie Essential Care. And Jackie, I've heard you say a lot, unapologetic self-care. And that kind of ties in with what Sonia just said. Like,
No,
we're not being
exactly.
selfish, we're not
Right.
apologizing for it.
Right.
So tell
Right.
us about that, Jackie. What does that mean to you?
Nice segue. And I was taking notes, Sonia, like going, yay, we're on the same track. So I guess what I bring today is my story of how I have moved from my journey that got me to unapologetic self-care. It's something I had to learn. It's something that I had that revealed itself slowly to me. And it really started around the time that I had turned 50. And I was pacing the aisles at Michael's, with my kids. They got a project due tomorrow. They got a poster board and all that kind of stuff. I found a book. It was this beautiful book that had beautiful soaps. And I thought, I could use some of that. And I'm by training, architecture and design, and I had closeted that. It's around. I closeted a lot of me to be a mom. I had closeted a lot of me to be a wife and co-business owner with my husband, and we still do that together. But what started to emerge around that time, this catalyst trigger, was this book became this kind of clarion song that said, "You can do this." And I'd never made soap before. I'm the kind of person who leans into the possibilities. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing until, later. So I took on the risk and started to do this hobby that became more than a hobby when someone asked me to buy it from me. And I was able to thread back into my life the creative ability to improve the lives of others. I had been building physical environments and empowering people to live in healthy environments, to work in healthy environments. So when Moxie showed up at my door, she pushed me through it and said, "Let's do this." And she also became eventually a reminder about, she reminded me about prioritizing myself, but the self-care part was not revealing itself immediately. It took a while. But I learned that those moments of rituals of personal care can be enhanced and leveraged to really bring about mind-body wellness and a kind of self-care that we need, and that actually has a lot of power. So it helps to be able to take the time to prioritize yourself, to be aware of self, to sort of shut out the outside noise and listen to your inner vibrations. Little woo-woo, but it stands like I stand right at the intersection of that and science. I stand at the intersection of my youth and old age, and I realize that leaning into the possibilities of what that journey, as my journey continues, will bring is what I'm doing. And I brought that to Moxie. It ain't just soap. It's about unapologetic.
I love that.
And I invite other women to dare to be, to be them, to stand in that space of them where their priority is not selfish to others. Their priority empowers themselves to empower others. I mean, we can still be all that we want to be, but it starts with us. So that is how I am, and Moxie, and me, and you. So.
Awesome. And this is all about achieving our desires and adopting habits, right? And so between the two of you, talked about boundaries and taking time for yourself and reflection. And if we don't take the time to do that, then we can't go do so much like the Proverb 31 woman, because we won't be well enough to actually be able to do all of those things. So
Right.
this is really good. I'm pretty sure the audience, and audience, I want to encourage you, if you have any comments about what we're talking about, go ahead and throw those in, and we'll take a look at those. But that's awesome. And Jackie, one more thing too before we finish, wrapping up with this, is you mentioned that you took that risk and you got pushed. You didn't like glide through the door. You got pushed through the door. And so what do you think made you say, yes, I'm doing this? What made you say that? Because I think there's some women who they might want to do something different, but there's that fear that stops them. So you let yourself do it anyway. So what caused that?
For me, it's probably as much the fear of regret of not trying. So I mean, I was aware enough that I needed to. I had sort of took inventory of all the things I had stopped doing, thinking that I was going to do it sometime later, but later was
Someday.
always the goalpost for later kept moving out, and so I wanted to not miss the opportunity. I wanted to lean into the opportunity, and so that's why. And I figured, I tend to do that kind of thing anyway, where I'll just jump, and go forward. But for this, it was gradual in the sense of the why. She was revealing herself. She was always there. Moxie was always deep within me. I just didn't know her as personally as I do now. I didn't embrace her as much as I do now. And I am all for midlife women, especially holding on to their moxie, identifying her within themselves, and then taking those moments to and be for themselves, for others. So
Love it. All right. Thank you. So, Kathy, now we've talked about the importance of having our mind and our body right. And so now it's time to seek and secure the right career opportunity. And for 39 years, you have been in this business. And so help us understand, Kathy, in your 39 years experience, how do you know when there's a good match between the person and the position? Because there's some people out here who might be looking for another job, because that's been happening a lot, right, with the Great Resignation. So what is it that you see and look for?
Well, I think your question is very timely, right? Because this is the time. If it's not now, it'll never be. So make it happen now, ladies and gentlemen, when you're listening to this. This is great stuff. So, it's interesting when you think about matchmaking, right, in general, because just like when you got married or you were dating and all that, you're kind of, oh, I like that person, or I like that person. Their character, their values are the same. They're fun, they're interesting, or whatever. So it's the same kind of thing when you're looking for a career. You really want to do something that you're going to be happy with and that you're going to do long term, because right now it's not the way it used to be. You used to be in different jobs every 3 to 5 years. You had to be in the office every day, and now that's not the case. We are seeing 11 million job openings with 1 million people looking. So there are 10 million jobs available for people to do in America today. So we have this $10 million, 10 million deficit, right? So that's the issue. So now is the time for us to pick what we want to do and then go after it, because we'll get it. We'll darn get it. That's what we're going to do. So how do you find a good match, and how does that work? The reality is that it's about the mission, the vision, and the culture of the company that you're interviewing with, and looking at what they stand for. So back in the day, there used to be the cigarette smoking places, right? And there was the alcohol places. And I remember interviewing people, and they would say, oh, no, I'll never work for a company that sells cigarettes. And I was like, yes, you go. More power to you. That's awesome. but this was a huge industry, right? And so there were very little jobs in certain towns that didn't involve
Mm-hmm.
things that they didn't really want to be part of, but they had to work. So they did what they had to do. So when you said, how do you actually know you got a good match, is when that mission, that vision, that culture all aligns. And when people would do the job for free, that's how much they love it. That's when you know you really got a good match. So
Mm-hmm.
I think about industries also, because industries are always changing, and Google is our friend. So Google top industries that are growing, and then see if one of those
Okay.
aligns with your vision and mission, right? I do have
Mm-hmm.
7 steps to take before choosing a career that we can talk about also real quickly if you want. I don't know if this is the time, but
Yeah,
the
get your
first thing.
pencil and paper ready, ladies, or your tablet. Get ready. Okay, let's do
Well,
it,
and
Kathy.
also what we could do is send this out to anybody who requests a copy. Michelle will make
There
it
you go.
available to you. So there you go. So the first thing you want to do is assess yourself. Who the heck am I? Who's going to want to hire me? You know, I'm really outgoing and friendly. That's me personally. So I probably shouldn't be an accountant, right? One would assume.
Right, right, right.
Right? You need someone who's got more attention to detail for that. So who are you? What do you like to do? What makes you happy? You know, and obviously we've got Moxie, we've got avocados here, and we've got a doctor here, and we got a trainer on sales. We got them all. We got them all right here. They can all help you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to really make a list of potential occupations. What is it that I could do with this outgoing, friendly personality? Who would want me? What skills do I bring to the table that would help that company recognize more in me than I even recognize in myself? And that's what usually happens, doesn't it? Our employers will say, oh my gosh, well, I know you can do this and I know you can do that. And for people on this call and the one speaking, that's what happens to us all, right? We always get a lot of things to
Right.
go, right? A lot of things to do because we're just doers, right? We just make things happen. So make a list of those
Right.
occupations and then explore them, right? So ask people that you know. If you're on LinkedIn, which you definitely should be, you want to reach out to people that are in the same business and ask them if they would spend 30 minutes with you about their industry. And so often
Mm-hmm.
they will do that for you because number one, you're asking and nobody really asks anymore. And number two,
Mm.
you really care, which they really like. And number three, holy heck, Batman, there's 10 million jobs available. Do you think they don't have one in their employment? Of course they do.
That is
So they're
a
like, well,
lot.
maybe I'll take this person in and train them if they're that good, that sort of thing. And then number 4, narrow down your list. So, you know, maybe you don't want to use your outgoing personality in sales. Maybe you want to use it as in recruiting. We have great recruiters in our organization, and every one of them is better than I'd ever imagined just because they truly care. So those are the things I would suggest that you do.
That's a great list, Kathy. First of all, I can't believe there's 10 million jobs. That's astounding, an astounding number. But what great tips, you know, and you talked about things like reaching out for help. I mean, too many times we think we have to be on our own to do something, and there are people who are willing and ready to help because you said more than once, people show that they care, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
so I think if we really reach out to people, put ourselves out there, we don't have to do it alone. I love that you shared those tips. So Kathy, really quickly, there are powerful women here on the screen and powerful women in our audience. Do you have some particular advice for powerful women who are seeking to secure the right job and the money they deserve?
Yes. Well, after you've done those 7 steps that I just suggested, then you really hone in on that industry. So, for example, I'm in search and staffing. I've been in it since I was 2, evidently, because it's been 39 years. And so I would have never
Toddler.
thought. Yeah, I would have never thought search and staffing was an industry that I would have been interested in at all. And it was really a little teeny ad in the newspaper that said, "Personnel, do you work well with people?" This was 39 years ago. There were no
Oh,
computers.
wow.
There were hardly memory
Right.
typewriters back then.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, well, I work well with people. I'll give it a try. So I called, and 39 years later, I'm still doing it. So I
Wow.
really suggest that people do a deeper dive. Yes, those one-on-ones. I'd be happy to do one-on-ones with anybody that wants to know about that. There are lots of other career sort of assessments, right? We've all done the Kersey temperament. We've done the DISC. We've done these things that help us see where we align. And when you align with sales, let's say, or service, then that's where you should be because you're going to be so much more successful than ever before. So talking about powerful women and men, Oh my gosh, the Dawson and Dawson team are super powerful. All you got to do is talk to them for 5 minutes and you figured it out. And so those
I
people
agree.
are helping everybody else figure out what their go is and where they can be happiest too, because they're happy. So surround yourself with
Good.
happy,
Yeah.
successful people in an industry.
There
Find
you
out if
go.
that's something that you really like and are interested in. And if it's not, go to the next industry and the next one from your list. That's how you do
Okay.
it.
So
And
do
you
your
are
research. Okay.
resilient. Resilient. You do not give up. When you want
Resilience.
something, you get it, right? Everybody knows
There,
that.
yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Kathy.
You're my pleasure.
Wow, we have talked about so many powerful things. And so here's the thing now that we're going to talk about is relationships. I tell you what, relationships with others, relationship with ourselves. So Dr. Cynthia Powell Hicks is actually an expert, and she focuses and has a show actually on mother-daughter relationships. And she's got a coloring book that she's going to tell you about later. Um, but here's the thing. As we know the power of relationships, Cynthia, how do we maintain good family relationships? I mean, good overall family relationships. Can you give us some expertise on that, please?
Well, first of all, I just love being here with such powerful speakers, and thank you so much, Michelle, for inviting me. I tell you, this is a one-stop shop. I definitely will be calling some of you later, so
Me
I
too.
can
Me too.
find out about
Definitely.
those, find out more tips on self-care. The main thing with communication, I mean, with relationships, is communicate, communicate, communicate. It's not rocket
Mhm.
science. And before you can really communicate, which I've heard others speak on it, self-care. Who are you? Take care of yourself. Think of yourself as building a building. You need to have a good core, a good foundation. I am definitely by no means a builder, but I definitely know how to help people build their emotions. And once
Mm,
you are strong, and we've said it before, then you can give to others. If your cup is empty, you can't give anything. There's nothing in your cup to give. So the self-care, the self-awareness, the self-love, don't apologize for that. Take it. Think about when you were a child. You were taking, correct? I mean, we were receiving,
yeah.
receiving
Right.
from the
Yeah.
environment, from our families, from everywhere. And then we turn into adolescence. Lord knows that's a phase that I still don't understand. And I've had 3 adolescent daughters myself. And then we're into this phase of life, which for me, I call it the last third of life because I've been, doing all this since the mid 80s. How does that look for you? Once you feel comfortable in your skin and comfortable for you, then you can give. But at this phase of life, at least for me, I have raised my family. What I would say I can't wait till they grow and go. And so they have done that. So now, uh, unfortunately, my husband has even left after 44 years due to a mishap. He went to sleep Sunday night and didn't wake up Monday morning. So now
That's
my last
painful,
third of
Cynthia.
life, yeah, my last third of life is a little different. But you recalibrate. The best thing to
Mm,
do is know you. So I'm in a phase at this time, I can't give as much as I used to give. I'm in the receiving end. A lot of us are like
hmm
that. We're all going through developmental changes and phases. They never talk about the stage that we're in now. But communicate, communicate, communicate. Be around happy people. Be around people whose cups
Okay.
are half full
Like
versus
Kathy
half
said.
empty. Yeah. Be around people that you want to be. Don't, if you're the smartest
Mm,
person in the room, what do they say? You're in big trouble. Yeah. Okay.
right. Right.
And the other thing, so I feel real good because I'm definitely not the smartest person here. So the
Me
other
either. So
thing
I'm
is,
feeling good.
yeah, learn to listen. The best part of communication skills is listening. Lord only
Yes.
knows what my daughters are and her generation and their generation is all about. But guess what? I may not condone it. I may not accept it. I may not understand it, but you'll learn a whole lot just by listening. And the other thing is unconditional love, no matter what. a
Right. That's
non-judgmental
easier
inner
said than
circle.
done.
Isn't it? Isn't
Easier
it?
said than done. Yeah,
Definitely,
it really is.
definitely. And
Yeah.
being non-judgmental.
There you go. Non-judgment. That's also, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so we could. I mean, I'm looking at the clock, and unfortunately, it's almost time for us to go. But I have to quit. I want to ask you, Cynthia, can you just give us like one or two sentences post-pandemic relationships? I mean, we were stuck at home for 2 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it's important for us to be able to go out and develop relationships. Can you give us one or two sentences about why that's important and what's the step one to make that happen?
First of all, the main thing is we're social beings. Isolating, having masks. I mean, if you don't do your eyes, I don't know how many of you all do makeup or whatever. It You don't even know what a person's really thinking. You don't know if they're smiling. You don't know what they're doing. I can
Right.
only equate it to when I was in the hospital. So many different people were coming up to me and they had masks on. But this one lady, I don't even know her name, remember her or whatever. She had the prettiest eyes. She had the eyeliner, the eyeshadow, and the gorgeous Bambi eyelashes. And
Okay.
so that was really good. And I know we talked about self-care, the fight or flight cortisone type levels, the stress, develop good coping mechanisms. What makes you work? What Going out on social events, going with family members. Do you remember, like after church every week, we all get together, bring a pot of food, and get together and eat? During COVID, we couldn't do that. At this
Right.
time, I'm assuming still practice safe COVID
Right.
protocols, but we do need to connect with people, and studies have shown that people that are grounded, psychologically healthy, whatever that actually means for the day. I wake up every morning giving myself a psychological test to make sure that I'm in the here and now, because some days you don't even remember what day it is when you wake up. To me, every day seems like a Saturday, so we have to
Right.
do that mental status exam. But people that feel good about themselves, it equates with positive and good cardiovascular health. So,
There you go.
so
Um, and then
enjoy
we're out of
life.
time. So, but that's such good tips. Here's what, Ariel, can you put a slide up? Because for our audience, what I want to do, there we go, is in case people want to get in touch with you, because everyone had such amazing things to share. So what I want to do is make sure that people know how to get in touch with you. And as they're doing that, writing down your information, taking a picture of the slide. Wow. I thank you all so much. What an amazing panel. I knew you all would be awesome. Kathy, Sonia, Jackie, Cynthia, you all brought it. You brought it. And I know that our audience really benefited from this. And I think this was a great way for us to honor and celebrate Women's History Month so that we can take care of ourselves so that we can achieve our desires. And so thank you so much. Audience, thank you for
Michelle,
being here.
I
Yeah.
just want to say thank you to you from all of us speakers for having us on this presentation and putting such a thoughtful presentation together. You are the bomb. You're the best. I feel that way. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to end the broadcast, and we can hang on, but I'm going to end the broadcast.
Yep,
Thank you.
exactly.